Well, everyone, you're hearing a much different voice than you're used to on this very here podcast feed. My name is Josh Nason. I'm the assistant editor of WrestlingObserver.com, a.k.a. the house that Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez built. And John Alba's been fired. He has been let go for just being egregious with all of his talk about let's wrestle and all these things. But no, we're just kidding. So I'm stepping in. That laugh you hear on the other line is Limitless owner, guru, god, Randy Carver, who is joining me here this very fine week. And you might remember me because I was on a couple months ago to review one of the shows that I was in attendance at, and we didn't get a chance to do it with John and Randy last time. So I'm here and helping run the show for a deeper dive in the Vacationland Cup and also a lot of other Limitless Wrestling news and notes and all that as well. So yeah, it's great to be back, Randy. Thanks for having me back. And what's new? What's happening?
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. We had a lot of fun the last episode you were on, so I figured we could do it again and got to make it more of a common occurrence. But as of right now, man, all sites are pointing towards Know Your Enemy. Obviously, September 6th at the Portland Expo. We've been doing a lot of work over the past couple weeks to get ready for that. As you said, John, I can only, in my wildest dreams, he would be fired from this podcast. But unfortunately, he will probably be back next week. But I'm super excited for this because John and I didn't get to dive like super full in depth like I like to do after shows, because I think the preview and the review episodes of shows are some of the most downloaded that we have. And I think they're, some people who may have missed the show, gives them a good recap of what had happened. And for people who went to the show, we kind of give them a behind the scenes look of how, everything came together or how things might have went wrong. So I think people really enjoy these episodes. So I'm very excited to dive in.
Yeah, as am I. And I listened to the last podcast, very fun as always. And I texted you that night, and before I even had looked, I subscribed to a ton of podcasts, and I hadn't seen that the new Limitless one is up. So I texted Ram like, "Oh, do you know when you might want to do that show?" And then I didn't hear anything back for a few minutes, whatever. And I was kind of looking at my phone. I'm just like, maybe they already did one. And I looked and it was there. And Randy, my heart sank. I'm like, oh, I didn't do a good job. I thought I did. I was so sad, so sad. I walked out like, Bruce Banner and the Incredible Hulk, the old TV show, and just kind of walked into town and slumped away. The music was playing in the background. But no, it was, I always enjoy when you and John talk and kind of get some insights there. But yeah, there were a few things I wanted to hit on as well. So yeah, I appreciate it, man. This is always fun to talk about Limitless. I love the promotion, as people know, and it's awesome to talk about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's not like that at all. I'll be honest about this podcast. We tape them literally whenever we can because I think I have a busy schedule, and then I look at what John Alba has to do for a schedule, and it's absolutely insane. So to get, I don't know, an hour or two where we can get either 2 or 3 people together for this podcast is actually quite difficult sometimes, but I'm always happy when we can get together and do these.
So let's, I know you guys talk a lot about Know Your Enemy, and as we're recording this is July 31st. So still a long time to go. Obviously people are super excited. I saw there was there's a few matches signed. I know you guys talked about some stuff that was built up and created at the Vacationland Cup. But since you last recorded, who do we have new added to the card, if anyone?
Yeah, so the big news, I think, recently this week that people are very excited about is we have set the debut for former UFC star Filthy Tom Lawler. And a lot of people who have been following Limitless for a while know that he was supposed to debut at No Control. He unfortunately broke his arm, so that was unable to happen. And honestly, since No Control last November, we've been trying to get him in for every single show. Luckily, this one worked out well because we actually thought that he was not going to be able to make it because of MLW's shooting schedule, but luckily they've been working with us, very well schedule-wise heading into this upcoming show. So we were able to make Tom Lawler work, and he makes his debut finally. And over the past week, a lot of additions: the Wild Child Jody Threat, Harlow O'Hara, and the 2 matches that you spoke of that have been set. MJF defends the Limitless Wrestling World Championship against Anthony Green in the main event. And we've got a very, very lucha-style tag match here where it's Jeremy Leary's hair on the line versus Chris Statlander's limitless career. Chris Statlander teams up with former rival Ashley Vox to collide with Sass and Fury of Jeremy Leary and Skylar. And as many know, and I think the clip is actually hitting YouTube today, Jeremy Leary got a little souvenir from Ashley Vox where he snipped off a piece of her hair at the end of the scramble match at the last show, which caused Chris Statlander to come out, who, it's been known for months she's not a fan of Skylar, not a fan of Jeremy Leary, so things are coming to a head in September.
And let's see, a couple other additions. Look at the Facebook Limitless page, Limitless Facebook page. You can get facebook.com/Limitless Wrestling. Kevin Blackwood was added since last time we had the podcast. As you mentioned, Filthy Tom Lawler, former MLW champion, and also a podcast host on F4W Online. So I'll throw that cheap plug in there as well. And there's a lot of stuff. Also, I must say I'm super excited about this. The Workhorsemen, Anthony Henry,
Yes.
JD Drake are back, and we're going to talk about these guys more in a few minutes during the deep dive. But I was so happy to see this. I love these guys, man. I thought that match against Main State Posse was great. We'll get into that in a minute, but I'm very excited that these guys are coming back for the anniversary show.
Me too, because they're so good, and they're actually like I booked them on the spot after that match with the Main State Posse because I think that's one of, if not the best tag match in Limitless history, to be honest. And they're great singles competitors. They got to show that on the WWE Network with Evolve recently, but goddamn, they're I think one of the best tag teams on the planet right now.
Yeah, they were awesome. Awesome stuff. So tickets have gone on sale already, and this is at the Portland Expo in beautiful Portland, Maine. The expo right next to Hadlock Field. For some reason you're not familiar with it, and how'd the first few days of ticket sales go?
Very good. It was record-breaking first day sales. We did over 370 tickets sold on the first day,
Nice.
Which is absolutely incredible. To put it in perspective, that's more than half of what the Westbrook Armory was when we were running there consistently. So an amazing outpouring of support on the first day, and it has slowed down a little, but not a ton. I think as we're recording this right now, we're looking at about 450 tickets gone. So it's been an amazing outreach of people grabbing tickets early, which helps us out a ton and helps us really game plan for what the set floor plan is going to be as we head into the weeks coming into the show. But I'm very excited for it because this is obviously a big step for Limitless Wrestling. This is not something that I necessarily anticipated at the beginning of the year, but I do think it's time to do it, and we're going to do it right. There's still a lot more to announce that people are going to be excited about on this show, so I'm ready for it.
Yeah, and I've always been told, some great advice as you progress through any career, you got to do some things that scare you a little bit, or else you don't grow. And
yeah,
I think this is this is it. But I think I think the fact that, and again, just having been kind of part of this world, so to speak, since last November, I think you have a fan base that is very dedicated and passionate and willing to spread the word. And I don't think you send too many people away disappointed. I think there's probably very, very, very few people. So I think the fact you've built up that goodwill, I think it makes a risk, quote unquote, like this, it makes it an educated one, right? And if there's no better time to try it than now. I'm excited to see how this turns out. And yeah, I'm sure you're as excited and, a little, I won't say scared, but a little bit nervous for it. But I think this is when it gets really fun, man. This is when you take the jump,
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's been amazing to see how many fans have just reached out and seeing, what they can do or who they can tell or if they can put posters up. Like, that's been amazing to me because, from the start, this has been a very, very tight knit operation. Like we've done, an insane amount of work between myself, Danger Kid, Aggro, Alexander Lee, Greenleaf. There's a ton of guys that are, behind the scenes, and Harry, who's been producing amazing videos to get out for these shows. It's amazing. And it's amazing now to feel that, the Limitless fans, the Limitless family, this whole community really coming together and trying to spread the word for this show and, make this a packed house. It's amazing to see. So I'm very excited for it and very excited to see what we can do.
So let's get a little deeper into the Vacationland Cup 2019 edition. And yeah, so this is my observation of the show, we'll kind of go through, match by match, and don't want to rehash exactly what you guys talked about last time, but we'll kind of get from my perspective. Again, I should reiterate, and I'm not being asked to do this, but I will, that I'm obviously not paid by Limitless Wrestling. I just help out. I'm a fan. I pay for my own ticket and all that stuff. So anything I say is my opinion, and I come from a standpoint of being a fan, and I don't go into things, looking to be critical first, which I know is a lot of like wrestling Twitter. So just kind of keep that in mind. But I think I'm pretty fair. And overall, I really enjoyed the show. To me, it was a story of two shows. I thought the first half was a solid A++++, and I thought the second half was I'd say a really solid B+, and I'll get into that a little bit, but the end was great, and we'll get into that a little bit more as we go. Before we do, I want to ask you about the creation of the Vacationland Cup. So when you first were, obviously starting Limitless Wrestling almost 4 years ago, kind of tell us about the idea of where the Vacationland Cup came from, and kind of the whole planning and went into that first one.
So I had a lot of drawbacks of there being really anything to fight for in Limitless at the start, because I think a lot of the early days of Limitless Wrestling was trying to find our identity and trying to find who our core roster was going to be, because unfortunately, as we've said before, Maine Wrestling had a very bad reputation. It was very tough to get decorated independent wrestlers or maybe bigger stars in the business to come to Maine and accept these bookings and, trust, 18 or 19-year-old kid who they hadn't met before in a place where wrestling sucked. So it was very tough throughout those first couple of years. And one of the big things that I didn't want to do was, either create, stories around a championship or, have a champion who was not going to be consistent with the company, who was going to maybe back out or take other things over, just not make us a priority, because, our biggest thing is making our fans a priority. And if we have someone who's, top of the mountain of the company walking out on them, it's going to make us look stupid, and it's going to, lead to people not trusting us with anything. So that was my big worry about having like a championship per se or anything to fight for. So we just didn't have that for a long time while we were kind of figuring shit out. And it started to grow on me where there was a lot of people asking for something, whether it be a championship, a tournament, anything possible to have to fight for. People were interested in seeing something of that nature. So as we kind of got into, just about rounding the corner into year 3, the talks became, okay, what if we do a tournament where, the winner, they get to choose any match that they'd like for the anniversary show. It's almost like, they get the opportunity to become matchmaker, so to speak. So we kind of put the plans in place for the Vacationland Cup for 2018. And it was something, people were very excited about it when we announced this thing, because as I said, that's almost 3 years of having really, truly nothing there to fight for. And I think people were jonesing for that because, there were a lot of really fun, stories that were told throughout those first 3 years. But I think a tournament adds a lot to the mix of, people saying, okay, I'm the best here. It brings validation to whoever wins that tournament. And JT Dunn did that. He went on to choose Ace Romero as his opponent. And now I think the 2019 Vacationland Cup just adds even more to the mix with the championship now in Limitless Wrestling. It presents a number one contendership opportunity, and we don't do a ton of number one contenders matches since the title had been introduced in March.
Right.
So this is, the first, true number one contenders match where someone can outright say, there might be a champion, but I'm the best guy here to challenge for it, and that's Anthony Green.
Nice. All right, so we'll go over number 2. Second one, obviously the first winner, JT Dunn. We'll talk about him more in a minute. A couple pre-show notes here. That I had as I walked in the Portland Club in beautiful Portland, Maine. I was walking up, waiting in line, and I saw a familiar face. Brandon Kirk was randomly smoking a cigarette out in the pen out front. And that was just, it was just kind of a weird, like, usually you don't see a lot of the wrestlers beforehand. So just kind of see him just hanging around. And I didn't see he was on the card, and I didn't really put, 2 and 2 together or anything like that, which we'll get into in a second. But that was kind of funny, just, random see him hanging out front, being a normal fan, so to speak. And then I walked in the venue. obviously packed to the gills, all types of people there, nice buzz in the air, and also very cool in there. It actually was not as hot as I expected. And randomly, Swoggle just kind of, I looked over and he's got just hanging out at his table. And it's just, it's such a weird, like surreal thing to see these guys that have been at the game's top level, being in WWE, and then just to kind of see them in an environment which is obviously a lot less people, but still, very emotion packed, and obviously people are into it. Just kind of just hanging out, not being mobbed by people, just kind of doing his thing, and it's it's just such a weird, like, kind of surreal thing to see that. And obviously you've dealt with these guys that have been in all types of levels and things like that, but that was that was pretty fun to see as well. He was a pretty good guy, Swoggle.
Yeah. Oh, I love Swoggle. And honestly, if he was out of a location that did not have a mega expensive flight, sometimes I think he'd be on most of our shows. He's great. And like you said, it's kind of cool to see these guys who have been, so to speak, at the top of the mountain with, WWE or maybe TNA or wherever they've been. It's cool to see these guys, on an intimate level where you can just walk up to them and have a conversation of like a person talking to another person. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's really cool. And I remember that as a kid when, we'd get the random like big time wrestling show. And I remember walking up to fucking Fit Finley one time and just having a conversation. It was amazing. Like, it blows my mind. And I hope that that's the feeling that other people get too when there's guys like Tommy Dreamer or Swoggle or Sean Spears there that they can just literally go up and have a conversation with. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And I think too, the fact that someone like Swoggle, who, 20 years ago, would be used, and we saw him, I was used in WWE as this leprechaun character, a psycho, just hiding under the ring, involved like the boogeyman and things like that. Never really treated like a serious like person, like actually a real person. And obviously back in like the 80s and stuff, we kind of know what slot small wrestlers like that would have, with the think of like WrestleMania 3, like King Kong Bundy against like Sky Low and Little Beaver and things like that. They were treated as just like a gimmick. And
novelty act.
Yeah, novelty act. Yeah, and to see him, how you and I'm sure other promoters treat him and bring him in. He's he's in that scramble, which we'll talk about, but he was treated like a normal wrestler, not a novelty act, which is it's refreshing to see that. And it's like, yeah, who cares if he's he's not as tall as Anthony Green or something. Like, there's talent, you got to figure out how to use him, and people just they kind of get the height out of their mind. They're like, oh, he could work, it's fun.
Yeah, he can go. And that's the thing, is like, I do think that sometimes people will come in with that preconceived notion that he is going to be like a novelty actor, that's how he's going to be used. But when he's given the time of day in a match, like, and put with some really good people, he can have some of the best matches on cards, in my opinion.
I did see. I don't know if this match has happened yet or it's going to. I think it's for AIW, the Midwest. They matched him up with Scott Steiner. Did you see that?
Yes, they did that WrestleMania weekend. They have him with Joey Janela, I think, this upcoming week.
Oh wow! Get out of here.
Yeah.
Unreal.
I think that'll be fun as hell.
Unreal. Good for him. So yeah, and then so the show starts out. We have our ring announcer Rich come out and do his thing, and then all of a sudden I look over on my left and I see this figure making his way to the ring, and it's one young Randy Carver who grabs the mic, and you did a pretty spirited promo, basically saying, who I can't remember how exactly you phrased it, but essentially it was like getting people fired up, like, who wants to see WWE, because WWE was running in Augusta the same night, and basically you were riled up and ready to go.
Yeah, I got a little wound up before that, which I typically try not to, but I was just feeling it this time, and I was very I guess I was very just impressed that we had a fan base that still was showing out, and that's the biggest number that we ever had in the Portland club, and it's just kind of just set me at ease, because I had obviously, by that point, I know that the Portland Expo is potentially happening. It's not set, but I know that there's probably a 90% chance that's going to happen. So this was a show to kind of say, okay, like, we're running against WWE, where they could pull a plethora of our fans away. How are we going to do? And we did great, draw wise, for we were turning people away at the door. So that kind of put me at ease and fired me up a little bit, saying, okay, maybe this Portland Expo thing is actually something that we can do and not fall on our faces with.
Yeah, you were riled up, man. It was good to see. I'm surprised. I've not got confirmation that Vince is trying to counter program the Expo show. I'm still trying to work on that confirmation now that he's going to try to squash you out or something like that. But and I was also surprised there was no invasion late in the show or anything like that. Maybe some of the guys from Augusta comes down and try to square things up. That would have been an amazing moment if that had happened.
Yeah, we should have sent them some invites.
Give them some flyers at the door or something like that.
Yeah.
So we get in the show. The Vacationland Cup kicks off with a grudge match. I know that it had been building for quite some time, and unfortunately it got kind of pushed off a little bit with Kevin Blackwood and Christian Casanova due to the Buffalo Boys accident, which has been talked about obviously quite a bit. This is Kevin Blackwood's official in-ring return. He came back at the event prior to do a promo in a nice surprise angle there. And Kevin Blackwood picking up the win. And yeah, I mean, overall, I thought this was obviously a really good way to kick things off. Again, this is a match that people have been waiting for quite some time. Originally, there was the tattoo stipulation online, but that was before the accident. Of course, feels like a lifetime ago. Stokely Hathaway was involved in that angle. I remember that, the tag match with Austin Theory. That was just, it feels like that was like a lifetime ago, but finally able to get these guys together. And overall, yeah, I thought this match was good. I thought the only thing I think that hurt it a little bit, and it didn't really hurt it that much, was the timing, because you were so far away from kind of where that angle had apex that I think it may have cooled off a little bit. The in-ring action was really solid, really fun. Obviously, Blackwood's return was big, but it was kind of like the story originally was, Blackwood and Casanova kind of finally having that blow off, so to speak. But almost the story here with the bigger part was Kevin Blackwood is back, and that kind of, I thought, overshadowed a little bit. Nothing you could really do about that, but it was just kind of a unique set of circumstances that led into this.
Yeah, I agree. I do think I think the emotion changed for people, because I think the emotion became, as the weeks progressed, as we were coming closer to the Vacationland Cup, I think people started to drift away from that, the Christian Casanova, Kevin Blackwood actual feud. And they said, it was kind of the emotion of feeling we're happy to have Kevin Blackwood back, and we're rooting for him because this would be amazing for his comeback if he comes back and wins this. And it was still, a very emotion filled match, because as you said, this was something that we were building to for quite some time. And it does feel like a long time ago, even though it's only 6 months ago. The Dream Team Kevin Blackwood fiasco is something that we were, building towards for March, and something that didn't get to really have its crescendo until now. So I was very happy that they got to do this match once more. They actually wrestled for the first time September of last year, Pretenders Beware. So cool to see it come full circle. Kevin, no real signs of ring rust at all. He looked absolutely fantastic, which you always wonder when someone's coming back from a long injury, especially, This is pretty severe. He had a very bad concussion. He fucked up his ankle really good, and we'll talk about Daniel Garcia later, who had even worse injuries. But just awesome stuff. And I do think this was really the only way that we could start this show, because it was going to be very emotional, it was going to be very intense, and that's exactly what we got.
Yeah, and it's always when a guy comes back after a long layoff, guy or girl, you kind of like that. That's a chance to also reinvent themselves as well. He looked a little bit more fuller up top. I think he might have had new ring gear. Maybe I don't know. It's been so long.
100%. He had new ring gear and a new jacket, and just looked very good. Yeah,
he looked the part, and I think that's the and I assume, I don't know if that was his own doing or if he got advice from somebody, but that was I thought that was great. A chance to he went from, and we'll talk about more about the finals here in a few minutes, but he went from someone that was maybe kind of a mid, I won't say a mid card act, but not on that upper echelon, to someone that you could see kind of the start of something, especially that you never want to see anyone getting a terrible accident like this, obviously. But if you can use that, come back and really kind of put things together, that could be a nice, in a strange way, a catapult into something else. And I could definitely see him doing some big things, upper card, main event stuff down, the next year or so, depending on how far he can take it and everything. He's my view of him changed a lot after this, and that was really well done.
Yeah, I think he's got some big things coming to him, not only just in Limitless, but I think later that weekend he made his Impact Wrestling debut as well. So I think he's got some big things coming his way this year.
All right, the next match, Ace Romero versus DL Hurst. DL Hurst filling in for Brad Hollister, who did he confirm he tore up his knee pretty bad?
It's not good. I still don't think we have a confirmation. I think we're still in that intermediate point where it's a decision to get surgery or not to get surgery. So once we get full confirmation, we'll talk about it here on the podcast. But it's not the best of circumstances. We're obviously wishing Brad well, and once we do have a full diagnosis, we'll let you know.
So the call, you obviously get the call, happened the night before, right? Or Wednesday night at the Beyond Wrestling show, right?
Yes. So I got a couple texts from one Limitless fan, Mikey, texted me immediately, and he's like, hey, Brad Hollister, I think he tore up his knee like really bad. And then I got a counter text from someone else who said it was not as bad as people were thinking. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's going to be all set. And then I get a text from Brad late that night. He's like, hey man, like it's not good. I'm not going to be able to do Friday. Like Brad was bumming hard about it, but obviously shit happens. You can't expect something like this to happen. And that's obviously a worst case scenario thing. So, at that point, you know, it's who's going to fit this spot the best and who's going to, you know, really have a chance here. And because this is really an open opportunity now for someone to kind of make an impact in Limitless Wrestling. And this is the opportunity that guys like a DL Hurst, who got this opportunity, they Jones for, because now, you know, obviously you don't want somebody to get hurt. That's not what I'm saying. Like, you don't fucking hope for somebody to get hurt to take their spot. But for a guy like DL Hurst, who's, you know, busted his ass, and I look back at when he broke his leg last year, and he was out for a considerable amount of time with that broken leg. And the dude was still, you know, hitting the roads, doing seminars, being anywhere he could. He was at every Limitless show still, doing commentary, literally whatever was needed. And he's been that way literally since I met him at Hybrid Moments, which was November of 2017. So he was the guy who came immediately to mind as someone who has earned this opportunity and won't squander the opportunity, because he's been getting so much better lately too in the ring. Because you know, we used DL Hurst pretty early on in his career in Limitless Wrestling, and now to see how far he's progressed, this was really the match that I think was able to show people how much he has progressed as an in-ring competitor, and just overall, just that he can hang with a guy like Ace Romero, who's been really a pillar for Limitless Wrestling since the beginning.
Yep. I know you guys did 50-50 for Brad as well that night. And so the decision that he just kind of still came to the show, was he just kind of like, I don't have anything to do, so I'll come along? I was always curious how that works in that case.
So when he hit me up about the injury, he was just straight up. He's like, I really still want to come to the show and like do commentary, help out, do anything I can, because I don't want to be home right now. Because Brad is, you know, he's a workhorse. He's someone who was on the road every single weekend. And this is, you know, such a bummer time for it to happen. He had a Ring of Honor match on the horizon the next week. So a big bummer, but he's someone who I think he'll still show up at Limitless shows throughout the duration of this injury, because he's someone who just still wants to be around it regardless of if he can do anything or not. I'm sure it pains him to not be able to do anything and be there, but he was actually a great addition on commentary. I got to listen to, because I rewatched DL Hurst, Ace Romero a couple of days ago. He was commentating on that match with Smashmaster, and really good addition to the booth. So I think you might see him on commentary more often.
Yeah, so this match, I just thought this was a lot of fun. This is one of those that, you know, you could assume it was going to be a complete squash if you just kind of look physically at both guys. But Hurst, man, he really impressed me in this. He really came through. I thought the match was it was laid out really great. When you find those times when you kind of get sucked into it and you think, oh my God, is he actually gonna win this? Like, there was just everything. It just fit. It was a really, really good match, and one of those matches that you really kind of, I won't say you dream about, but this is when you try to get both guys over. I think, you know, Romero, obviously he's a made man, so to speak. But Hurst, I think he came out of this looking great. I'm really kind of intrigued by how he's booked next or who against or whatever. I thought he came out as almost like a little bit of a babyface in a lot of ways because he took that beating, he held his own in there, and just the way that people reacted to him after he left, I think that's kind of one of those that's one of those things where I think I kind of in my head I'm like, all right, they really wanted to turn him into not to fantasy books. I know people get annoyed by this stuff, but kind of thinking ahead, obviously there's the Brett Domino thing that's still there. Maybe there's something down the road where, Brett doesn't like the fact that, Hurst is getting some more attention. He's got a little bit more, momentum and confidence, and maybe that leads to something down the road. But I was kind of immediately intrigued by where Hurst could go next. And I think that was a good thing. This is a really fun match.
Yeah, and I think it's almost like a new beginning for DL Hurst, too. Probably someone who needed something like that, to be honest. And, a fresh start never hurts anybody, especially when you're going up against Ace Romero and you have a performance like that.
So then we had a little break from the Vacationland Cup and went into a match that I would say, and honestly, if you invite me for the the best of 2019 show or the awards or whatever you do, this match is going to be among the top 4 my favorite Limitless matches of the year. This was tremendous. Main State Posse versus the Workhorsemen. This was my first chance seeing the Workhorsemen, and I was impressed to say the very least. I don't even think that's the right word for it. They were really good. I thought very similar to that match against the Hart Foundation is it took a little while to get going, but once it did, man, it was it was on. It was just you were just in awe of what was happening. Not necessarily, obviously the Hart Foundation match with the MSP was a lot different in that there was more obviously big high spots, these huge impact moves like that. Teddy Hart is just crazy, and obviously everyone knows what the Posse can do. But it was just a different type of impactful moves. Drake was just tremendous. Everything just absolutely worked. The chops, I think, were the chops, man. I don't think anyone that saw that match live will ever forget those. The way that Danger Kid was just getting, his chest was just getting all beat to hell. This was the match itself, and we'll get to what happened afterwards. But this was just fantastic. This was absolutely fantastic. I didn't think I was gonna ever. I wouldn't say I didn't think I was gonna enjoy it this much, but this was awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and as I said before, I do think the Workhorsemen are one of the best tag teams on the planet right now. These two teams have faced off. I guess this was the third meeting between the 4 guys, and all 4 of them said that this was their favorite match that they've had with each other, and it was just insane, top to bottom. I do think that this is probably one of the better tag matches in Limitless history, maybe one of the better matches in Limitless history, depending on who you ask. And I think this is exactly what Danger Kid and Aiden Agro needed, because I think, the match with the Hart Foundation followed up by this match really solidifies them as one of the best tag teams in the Northeast, and definitely one that, more promotions, I think, around the U.S. should be looking into if they're looking into expanding their tag team division, because these guys can really do it all, and they can hang with some of the best in the business and have matches like this that turn a crowd upside down. The crowd was into it from the start. It was hot from the start. It was emotional from the start. And then, as you said, things started building up and getting going, and people were going nuts for it. So,
yeah,
very fun one. This is one that I got to watch back as well a couple days ago that I was very just impressed up and down with. So, this is going to be a fun watch back for those who may have not seen it.
Yeah, I meant to do this before. It's kind of looking back, the last year or so of who MSP has been booked against in Limitless, and it's like a who's who of non-signed tag teams, so to speak. And I mean that's good for them. And to your point, I think it's a matter of time before the right person sees them and are like, we're going to give these guys a shot, and they're going to be obviously off and on to better things, but I think they're going to get a pretty big opportunity at some point, and it's good. You see their growth and how they've done this, and this it fits. It absolutely fits, and the fact they've been highlighted in shows so much, but and against the right teams, it must be kind of fun. 'Cause obviously you're close with these guys. It must be kind of cool to see just how much they have progressed when given these huge opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. Because I remember to look back to 2017, like Problematic was one of the first times where we kind of set up a bigger tag team match for them, which was them and the Batiri. And I wasn't 100% stoked with their performance that night, and we've talked about it a ton since. And I just didn't think that they clicked that night. So it was just that was something early on that kind of said, okay, like what are we going to do with the Mainstay Posse moving forward as a tag team? And then that's more so when we went into the trio stuff. So it kind of, the tag team component of the Mainstay Posse was kind of put on the back burner. But as you've said, like they've grown so much as competitors, and this year especially, we've really kind of thrown the test at them of, some of the better tag teams going today. Just in the past few months in Limitless, they've wrestled Sass and Fury, the New Heart Foundation, the Workhorsemen. They had trios action against the Shook Crew earlier this year and the Thick Boys. So, as you said, they've been facing a lot of the top tag teams in the region, not even in the region, in the U.S. And, they've really shown, especially over the past 2 or 3 months, that they can hang with truly anybody, and they've grown so much. So, really cool to see because – Danger Kid and Aggro are literally two guys who I've been able to watch from their very first day of training. So it's pretty cool to see. They've done a lot of work, and they definitely deserve, everything that they have.
So then after the match, this masked man gets in the ring and kind of. So before this, I should add that I take notes on my phone, and I put a question mark, Alexander Lee, like, what's going on? Is he? And I meant to add, I was going to ask you on a podcast, is he hurt? Is something going on? And I saw him doing commentary and everything. I just figured maybe he's nursing injuries and what have you. But then all of a sudden this masked man comes out and starts getting in the posse's face. And, Alexander Lee comes out and, grabs the microphone and has the buoy with him and, says, basically says, whoever you are, you're not going to take apart, or he rips the mask off. It's Brandon Kirk, the aforementioned smoking Brandon Kirk. And he basically says, you're not going to break up the Mainstay Posse, blah, blah, blah. And there's only one person that can, I'm messing up the terminology. There's only one person who can do that. And it's me. And then, hits the guys with the buoys, big heel turn. This was, in Brandon Kirk get in the ring. They start the beat down. And then they point out, Alexander gets on the mic and he mentions something about being on, Joey Eastman was right online. And this guy stands up, pulls his mask off. And the guy's name is Joey Eastman, right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so let's kind of start there because I, again, haven't been part of this for not too long. I'm not familiar with Joey Eastman. Do you want to kind of talk about who he is and how he kind of fits into this whole world, maybe for people that are kind of like me and don't really know?
Yes, so Joey Eastman came into the world of Limitless Wrestling at Hybrid Moments, which was November of 2017. And his main objective was to make the Mainstay Posse marketable. And one of the things that he pointed out with the Mainstay Posse is that it was very regionalized. You couldn't really take that to other territories, so to speak, and have that work because people would not understand. So he essentially wanted to take the little punk band and put a label on them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And clean them up a little bit, be able to present them to bigger places as a cleaner, different version. And, that's not what the Mainstay Posse was about. That's not what they wanted. They're very kind of DIY, a group of guys where they very much, everything that they accomplish, they get it done themselves. And, I think that's a very respectable quality of them, but they were obviously not, very interested in Joey Eastman's propositions early on. And then Joey just became that thorn in their side where, he just kept sticking his nose in their business. He kept, sending them propositions, and he'd show up every time after their matches, and they were losing at the time. They had a very long losing streak for a number of months, and frustrations start to boil over. And after, we look at March, Only Fools Are Satisfied. Now we're in March of 2018. He gets them some matches because he says, okay, now you all can prove yourself in singles matches. So Danger Kid wrestles Jimmy Jacobs in singles. Aiden Aggro and Alexander Lee were a part of the scramble. All three of them lost. So then we get to Feed the Need, May of 2018. They have an in-ring confrontation with Joey Eastman that was narrated by John Alba. That was a wild 10 minutes where Joey Eastman made his final proposition to them where he said, okay, I've done something for you guys now. I've just taken it upon myself and done something for you, even though you don't want it. He got them all a spot in the 2018 Vacationland Cup. Unfortunately, it was all against each other. He got them a triple threat match against each other in the opening round. Danger Kid moved on. And at the end of that match, we saw the Mainstay Posse, who everyone thought was going to be ripped apart in that match because of Joey Eastman, come back together and, unite against Joey. So the culmination was in September of 2018, Pretenders Beware, the 3-year anniversary show of Limitless Wrestling, where it was the Mainstay Posse against Team Joey Eastman, which consisted of Brandon Kirk, Jeff Cannonball, and Casey Catal, where if Joey Eastman's team won, the Mainstay Posse would be forced to disband. But if the Mainstay Posse was victorious, Joey Eastman would have to leave Limitless Wrestling, and the Mainstay Posse was victorious. So that leads us to where we are now.
Excellent backstory. That's good. So then obviously he makes his return, and it's okay. So now that completes the whole circle for me. The Brandon Kirk involvement, Alexander Lee, and so now it's a question of they have to agree to get him to be reinstated, and the contract for which gets stapled to Danger Kid's head. Poor guy got chopped to death and gets a stapled contract to the head. No one likes that. It's a bad.
It's a rough night.
It's a bad Friday night in the Old Port. It might have happened to me at one point in the Old Port years ago, but we'll skip that story. So now we wait and see if they accept the terms and if we get this match. And I can think of an event that it could happen on. I thought this and obviously I have your cell. I don't text you during shows. I try to be obviously respectful of that. But I had to text you after this. I thought this execution of this was like A+++. This was tremendous. From the match itself all the way through the end of this, I thought this was like I was transfixed, and so everyone was into it. This was tremendous stuff. So well done to everyone involved.
Yeah, this one got wild, and it almost felt as chaotic as the closing scene to Hooked on a Freedman, where the ring was getting littered with trash because MJF was being MJF. And it felt very wild in there, because I think that's obviously something that no one expected to happen, myself included. So we'll see what happens. Mainstay Posse now holds the power in their hands to, potentially make a match official between the Mainstay Posse, Brandon Kirk, and Alexander Lee for September. But they do have to reinstate Joey Eastman to do so. So we'll see what happens.
And you had a lot of moving parts with security people and all that stuff. And everything managed to come out pretty well.
Yeah, even though the security jumped the gun, they were on the money in that ring, and they were doing their jobs.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I was watching the footage back. I saw a lot of the Limitless Dojo kids get popped by Alexander Lee.
Yeah.
Which was honestly quite comical. But in the moment, I'm watching them drop like flies, and it was bizarre.
It was chaos. That was great stuff. So obviously check that out, and footage of which is available on YouTube and all that as well. Limitless Vacationland Cup resumes with good luck to these guys trying to follow that, right? JT Dunn, Eli Everfly, good match here, pretty entertaining. JT Dunn goes over. My only thing about this match, I will say, is this is just kind of like storyline wise, is that after the last show, and again, I apologize for not being able to remember the names of the shows, but the last show, obviously with JT Dunn, the Kings exploding, giving the elbow, death by elbow to MJF and doing the promo. I kind of thought that JT Dunn was going to be more of a face going forward, or thought that was kind of what was happening here, and he essentially was back to his normal gimmick of being a heel. Obviously, brought out the Vacationland Cup trophy from last year that he won, so that kind of threw me off a little bit. But obviously not too much. But JT Dunn moving on to the finals, and this felt right. Obviously, him winning the cup last year, I think it would have been a little bit of a bummer if he wasn't in, especially given what happened in the final match. But I thought this was a solid match. I know you said that you thought this was Eli's best effort in Limitless to date, but I thought this was a solid match.
Yeah, and I actually think and it was surprising, like going into this tournament, that a lot of people had JT Dunn on upset alert. And I would say about probably 50%, it was pretty 50-50 with the split of how many people thought Everfly would get the upset here. But I was stoked going into this match, and I did not leave disappointed. I really enjoyed this one. And it was cool to finally give Everfly, who I feel like every time that he's come into Limitless, it's either been a scramble or a tag team match, which no problems with that. But I love getting a chance to give like a wild card like Eli Everfly a really prominent singles match on a show like this, because I think he really went out there and proved what he can do. And now it just makes me even more excited to bring him back and see what we can do with him, because Eli is such a fun competitor. So very fun match, and, a big win, big statement win for JT Dunn, who made his way into the finals.
Yep. Then we had the three-way, the much-anticipated three-way. This was a hell on you to put this whole thing together and how things turned out with, the whole AEW involvement and all that stuff. But you got it. Anthony Green versus Sean Spears versus Tommy Dreamer. It was, Limitless versus, House of Hardcore versus AEW. I mean, these guys obviously work for a ton of different promotions, but this was, it was intriguing going into this. I was kind of like, how is this match going to look? How is this going to feel? And after it was all done, it was like, yeah, it's pretty much exactly what it should have been. This was a lot of fun. Spears, I tell you what, man, he's like, it's no big surprise these guys leave WWE and they get an opportunity somewhere else. And even just a little bit of tweaking and care and attention, they come off like such bigger stars. And Sean Spears, who was basically relegated to, the land of nothing while he was in WWE, except for a little bit of the Perfect 10 thing, because it completely reinvented himself, partially thanks to AEW, obviously, but just has a great look, looks like $1 million, has the whole thing going, the whole chairman thing. And he really has the heel thing down. The interplay with the young fan, the kid at ringside was great. It wasn't overdone, but people want to obviously take this stuff seriously, but they also enjoy the comedic aspect of it as well. And it had the right bit of each for that. The involvement with the other guys, Dreamer knew exactly what to do. This was obviously really, really good, as expected. Anthony Green picking up the victory here. And yeah, you had to be, I would assume you had to be super happy with how this turned out, given the hellacious road to get here.
Yeah, I was. And I was very excited for it, because I think just looking at that match, you knew it was going to be a lot of fun. I didn't know necessarily what to expect, because I don't know. I think Anthony Green, in my opinion, one of the best guys going right now. Sean Spears, as you said, has really just come into this new kind of character for himself, this new persona. And it's a lot of fun. And Tommy Dreamer is always a lot of fun to have on shows. And honestly, one of my favorite people to book. He saved my ass in this scenario, and just one of the best dudes going, to be honest. And, to have this come together as a triple threat match, I think is really cool. It was very unexpected. And it's kind of bizarre how 2 years straight we've promoted this tournament as an 8-person single elimination.
Yeah.
And then both times we've got like random triple threat matches thrown in the first round, but I'm for it, because this was a hell of a lot of fun. As you said, that interaction with the young fan was hilarious, and got one of the biggest pops of the night, to be perfectly honest, because the kid was playing around with Sean Spears throughout that whole match. So very fun stuff. I really enjoyed this one, and I can't wait to watch it back. And as you said, Anthony Green got the win, moving on to the finals.
Yeah, it's one of those matches. I mean, I don't think you'll ever see it again, and that's kind of
I'd be quite surprised.
And it's guys at different points in their careers. Obviously, Tommy's a lot closer to the end than the beginning. Anthony Green, who is everyone obviously thinks really highly of Anthony Green getting his big shot and Evolve on the WWE Network the day after that, but just he's been killing it in Limitless and other promotions. And then Sean Spears, who, I think the sky's the limit for him in AEW. It's just this weird, man, indie wrestling is really weird like that. And you know this better than anyone, that just sometimes things just happen and they come together. And it's like, I could have never seen this happen in a million years or come together the way it did, but it did. And it's one of those kind of limitless moments. And maybe going forward, maybe one of the spots on the bracket is set aside for a random triple threat. I mean, I think it's the stars talking to you, man.
It might be, man. As we get into the 2020 Vacationland Cup, it might have to be a thing, because I don't know. Could be a little cool thing that's very, just a Limitless Wrestling thing, and people who are here understand it. So maybe we do that. I don't know.
Yep. So we had obviously the post-match attack on and Anthony Green, so setting up a little bit of doubt going into the finals for him. So that was well done. So it was good. And so dealing with Sean, he was obviously after everything that happened, was he pretty good to deal with?
Yeah, he was super cool, and it was never his fault, so to speak, that this happened, the way that it did. This was, I think, just a communication issue all around, if I had to guess, because once things kind of started to break down, nobody really knew what was going on. So if that makes any sense, I got the email, I should say, that weekend. And then when I was making my calls, I had just had a lot of people kind of not really know what was going on, or some people didn't even really realize that he was pulled. And I honestly don't know if AEW realized that they were pulling him off of a wrestling engagement. I just think it was kind of a thing where they said, okay, we've got this guy under contract. We need him for this day for taping. And they just kind of did that. And I get that completely, because that's the risks that you take when you book contracted talent. But the kicker of the whole thing was that we had this deal in place before he was assigned, wrestler for AEW. So, my big thing, especially when we put out that post, is that our contracts theoretically should take precedence to that, because it was in place before the time of a deal. And that's just what I had been told too. So that's a big reason why we put that out there. But once everything got resolved, everybody in the whole deal, AEW, Sean's agent Brian, Sean himself, everybody, and Cody too, Cody's the one who made this, come to fruition and work. So for everybody involved, once we all got back on the same page and everything was resolved, everybody was super easy to work with, and it was a breeze. So I'm very thankful for that.
And the lesson, as always, everyone, don't mess with Limitless. Just don't do it. That means you, Vince McMahon, talking directly to you, pal.
It's coming.
Let's see. So we have then this was the first half of the match. Let's see. So let's see. Go back to my notes here. Okay, so first half A++, second half strong B+, and we'll get in a little bit here. The return of Daniel Garcia submitting the Blade Pepper Parks. My issue with this, I thought it didn't. So I know this was his first match back, but I think there was so much emphasis put on Blackwood coming back for his first match that it kind of got lost a little bit on the Garcia end of things. Obviously, I think fans knew it was his last match, but it was a little bit, it kind of was just different, if that makes sense. I also thought this was a little bit too long. I just think it went like 5 minutes or so too long, just kind of dragged a little bit. It's always tough coming back from intermission, but it was, for me, I know you really like this match, but it just didn't work for me for whatever reason. I think it was just a little bit too long, and maybe if Garcia had done, I don't know if he does a lot of promos at this point, but for whatever reason, this just didn't work for me.
Yeah, and I've got some mixed reviews on this one. I really liked what I saw. I didn't get to see this one in full yet, nor have I been able to watch the replay, but I liked what I saw from this one. I do think, here's the thing about the Vacationland Cup that's kind of difficult. I don't know if we ever really talked about this before, but the layout of the show is a lot different from normal layouts of Limitless shows. I can't do the layout that I would love to for these Vacationland Cup shows, because there are 4 first-round matches that you have to have on the first half. You know what I mean? Because it's just, it would make no sense to have a first-round match right before the main event or something of that nature.
Yeah.
So you've got to split them up during half. So that leaves you, theoretically, with an 8 or 9 match card, that leaves you with 1 match to play with on the first half, which in this case was MSP Workhorseman, which I think was the perfect one to put there. However, I do think that Daniel Garcia Pepper Parks in this scenario may have fit better on the first half if it was mixed in, and it may not have been the best match to come back from intermission with. But I do think people were still into it. They really enjoy Garcia and Pepper Parks. Also, this is kind of a reintroduction. We talked about it earlier with D.L. Hurst. This is kind of the same scenario with Daniel Garcia, where it's a reintroduction to the Limitless crowd, because the last time the Limitless crowd saw Daniel Garcia, he was tagging with Brandon Thurston as a shooting gallery and at No Control in November. I think you were there for that. and they hadn't really seen, I don't know, the full true Red Death Daniel Garcia, and that's what they got to see this time. So I think it was a reintroduction for him as well. This actually, like, a lot of things changed with this card that we just hadn't announced, because originally Daniel Garcia was actually going to accept Mark Sterling's open challenge, and that was going to be the match.
Oh, interesting.
So he was going to be unannounced heading into the show and have that return, but we ended up changing some things. We ended up, Jay Freddy was on the show originally as well. He could not do it because of a scheduling conflict, so that kind of left Puff up in the air, and that's where things changed in that aspect. But I enjoyed this one. I did get some mixed reviews from it, and I'll be excited to watch it back. But I think Daniel Garcia is going to have a big year in Limitless Wrestling, and I think that was the very start of what we're going to see from Red Death.
So I was actually standing next to you when this match was going on, kind of right around you. And I noticed a lot of people come up and talk to you at shows. That's to be expected. But I was curious, when it comes to your interaction with fans at shows, obviously you're trying to run the show and making sure everything runs smooth. It must be kind of tough to have the conversations you want to have with fans while also trying to run the show at the same time.
Yeah, like, I love talking to fans at shows, like I really do. There are occasions though where I just have to like step away and go do something, and I just hope I never seem rude by it. But I love talking to fans at shows, especially if I'm in a position where I can still watch the ring. Like, I'll talk to people all day during shows. There are certain scenarios where I can't, because sometimes I got to be by like the music area to maybe make a change or give a cue or something of that nature, or just run to the locker room. Unfortunately, we don't have like a walkie-talkie system or anything of that nature. We do have a group chat, this was an amazing help. I've kind of become a little bit of a millennial lately, and I've gotten to the group chat game. So we had a big group chat of all the dojo guys and really anyone on the crew this time, and that was a super easy way to just like, because at least someone in the group of guys who we have on the crew is going to be looking at their phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a huge help and easier way to communicate with guys until I started losing signal. But that was a great way to communicate with everybody, to kind of get everybody on the same page, so that I didn't have to be kind of running around the whole time, because it was also very tough to move around in that building at all.
Yeah.
So, but no, I never have a problem with it. Just sometimes I do have to step away and go, let somebody know something or do something. This time, this is actually kind of funny. I was having a conversation with somebody, and I got a text from that group chat that said, "Come to the locker room." And I kind of looked, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go the back way and hit the front door. Well, I was locked out of that fucking front door for 5 minutes, and I'm banging on the front door, and I'm looking at Anthony Henry, and he's just not looking at me, because there's a little vestibule in the front of the venue. So I message him. I say, "Hey, can you let me in?" And he finally gets it.
Awesome.
But yeah, no, never a problem talking to people at shows.
Yeah. Once you guys eventually do, assuming you do like walkie-talkies, earpieces, your life is going to be so much easier. And this is coming from someone I know you may be resistant to it, but I used to work in pro sports for 6 years. That walkie system is like, it's so ideal. It's just, it's one of these days, Randy. One of these days
we're gonna have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Then we get into the traditional 6-way scramble. Ashley Vox picking up the win in this one. Again, mentioning the first match, the Garcia match, I thought was a little bit too long. I would have loved to see a little bit more time added to the 6-way. It was a lot of different personalities, some newcomers to Limitless, or maybe some people that had been away for a while. There were a couple of guys from the Maritimes, which were unique personalities, and Christ especially, I thought was really funny, and how he sold stuff, and how his mannerisms. Swoggle was involved in this as well. This is, again, these scrambles are like, they're such a signature, because the random personalities all thrown in there. And it was kind of cool to see Vox in there, considering she's been, kind of upper card, so to speak, for a while. And, being involved in the scramble, picking up the win. This was a fun one. I know you had, one change, obviously, in the lineup to it, but overall, other than, having, needing maybe a little bit more time, I would have liked to see that. This was good as always.
No, I'm with you. I think that analysis is pretty spot on. I think if, Parks and Garcia maybe cuts down a couple minutes and it's awarded to the scramble. I think the actual like flow of the card could have picked up because of that. But I love the scrambles. I always do. I think this is a very unique position, as you said, for Ashley Vox to be in, who just comes off headlining the last show for the championship against MJF. We've seen in the past, when people lose, when people really build, climb that ladder of Limitless Wrestling and lose on top, the climb begins again. And this is the perfect place to do it, the 6-way scramble, because I think a lot of people have had breakout performances or just, kind of solidified themselves in Limitless Wrestling. And I think Ashley Vox really just re-solidified herself in Limitless after coming off that loss, which I don't think she lost anything from losing to MJF. But I also think that, the big win here really does put her back in a good position in Limitless Wrestling. I was stoked about this one, especially because this had a lot of Let's Wrestle flavor to it. And we talk about Let's Wrestle every now and then on the podcast, but it is the kind of brother-sister promotion of Limitless Wrestling, where I don't want to call it a farm system, but it's filled with a mixture of Limitless Wrestling talent and talent who are on the cusp of becoming Limitless Wrestling talent, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
It's also a breeding ground for our Limitless Wrestling Dojo students, which now I think on our upcoming show, we've got 5 Limitless Dojo students, whether they're reffing, wrestling, managing, that are on the upcoming show in August, which is really cool. But this was really cool because Lil Blay, Kobe Christ, and then Channing Thomas, who took the spot of Leon Ruff, who did not make it. All 3 of those guys are, people who I've been introduced to pretty much from Let's Wrestle. And that's where I got the chance to work with them for the first time, really understand what they bring to the table as professional wrestlers. And it's exciting to now have the opportunity to kind of take the next step with talent to say, okay, now let's see what you can do on this bigger stage. And if people like you, you're going to get brought back. Like if you have a good performance, you're going to be brought back. And I think Channing, Lil Blay, and Kobe Christ all had very good performances and will be brought back to Limitless Wrestling this year.
Yeah. Have you done the Lil Blay dance since you worked the show? Have you been finding yourself doing that at home, at the camp, or anything like that?
I do think about it every now and then, but I realize how silly I would look doing it. But I did get to see a nice little clip of Lil Blay teaching Puff how to do the Lil Blay dance. So I don't know, man. Maybe we need a little dance show with Lil Blay to hit the YouTube. I think that would be fun.
There you go. I like it. So this, my note here was a little bit of a mess at the end. So this was kind of why I said this was a B+ for me, and I'll explain a little bit. So Jeremy Larry, who's in the match, and so before this, I kind of thought something might be going on because, again, I was right next to kind of the entranceway, and you would try to get Bradford the Barber, a Limitless mainstay, to get into to come over by the door. He came over and set up his stuff, and after the match comes over, Jeremy comes over as Skylar had done a run in attacking Ashley Vox. Jeremy spotted Bradford the Barber. Bradford, looking very stunned as why this was happening, came over, grabbed the scissors from him, and decided to cut off a piece of Ashley's hair. And then Chris Statlander's music hit. She came out, and she was already scheduled to wrestle Skylar. It was kind of like, why don't we do this right now? So here's what I kind of say is a little bit of a mess. So at least to me. So I was confused. First of all, I wouldn't have had, again, I hate saying this, but I'm going to. So I wouldn't have had Chris's music hit because that felt too like produced to me almost. It's kind of like it didn't feel as organic as her just coming out and saying, let's just do this right now, like almost unannounced. That's just a big thing with me. Like WWE does that all the time. And so she comes out, and then Ashley kind of immediately starts hugging her and smiling and doing all that. I was thinking, like, I thought these two were rivals. I knew they were rivals before, and I was trying to think maybe they were partners a long time ago. Did that ever happen?
So in their actual introduction into Limitless Wrestling, yes, they were partners.
Okay.
They were a part of the same squad against the Main State Posse. And then obviously shit went awry in March when Ashley Vox, Chris Statlander perceived that Ashley Vox stole a win from her, which then resulted in Ashley Vox getting a big opportunity against Rachel Ellering at Feed the Need in May of 2018. And that's kind of where everything went downhill.
Okay. All right. So that makes a little bit more sense. So for me, I was kind of like, okay, why she's had this rival now, and now she's kind of like hugging her, and she didn't seem concerned about the haircut one bit. And to me, usually, obviously, in you see hair angles that there's a little bit more concern. And maybe that's just kind of was just a play out the person. And I like, all right, who cares? And then we get into the match. So obviously, it's Skylar versus Chris Statlander, and Jeremy Leary stays at ringside, and then Ashley just takes off. To me, I'm like, well, why does she just stay and help if Jeremy is still out here? Like, didn't run him out of the building or anything like that. Skylar eventually wins. Ashley comes back out, and then we eventually get to the career versus hair at one point, and all that as well. So that was just, to me, there was just some jumps here that were, and again, I don't go into the matches kind of looking for this, but when things kind of stand out of me asking a question in my head, that's why I kind of just noted that. So just some of those jumps, and maybe I had to be watching this a lot longer ago, but I was just trying to kind of, some things just didn't connect for me and how some of this stuff came together.
No, I get that. And I do think there were some points where it did kind of feel, I don't know, a little bit like a clusterfuck, but I think it got brought back around at the end. Ashley and Chris, I think the big surprise for people was Chris coming out and helping Ashley Vox, like you said, because that's not something that anybody expected. So now these two are going to team together for the first time in a long time against Jeremy Leary and Skylar, which will be very, very fun to see. And obviously the rumors are swirling that, some big things are in store for Chris Statlander. So could this be the end? Jeremy Leary said, specifically that he wants to be the one to take out Chris Statlander before she's ready to go, essentially, before she's ready to leave this planet. So we'll see what he can do. He's got the opportunity to do it, but his hair's on the line.
Yeah. And as we've talked about, in the past, I think big things are ahead for Chris. I think she's got it. So this will be pretty fun to see. You were not happy with the mic. I was standing almost right next to you, and you were trying to get the mic switched around or something like that. And this was it's always fun to see angry Randy. And this is stuff I pick up again, having used to work in pro sports, because I've been in that position, and I was just like, wow, he is hot right now.
I forgot about this because literally we had two mics labeled, because we had one. I wanted two for the night. We had two that were working. We have three total. One's broken, and just I don't know why we have it so, but it's broken. So the big emphasis on, before we even open doors, that we're marking the microphones, and that the A microphone is to be used, anywhere that's close to the ring, and then the B one is has little echo to it that we could not figure out before we had to open the doors. So that's the mic labeled, if we absolutely have to use it, let's use it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he was past the B microphone throughout the whole duration of that promo, and no one could understand the cue to just bring in the A microphone before he started talking. And I was kind of losing my mind, because I could not make my way over there at that point. So, but it everyone understood what was going on. Everyone could hear him, so it was okay. But you obviously want to strive for, excellence, especially in audio, where it's a clip that you have to share online as well. So, I was a little hot over that.
Yeah. Well, if you share the clip online, you just, have them just dub over it. Just do like your voice or somebody else's, and just kind of recreate it,
Yeah. We'll put captions in the bottom.
Subtitles. Yeah, it'd be great. And then this led into a match. I put a buffer match, but obviously, I'm sure guys wouldn't maybe not use that term, whatever, but this is kind of the palate cleanse before the main event. And this was like the perfect palate cleanse. Puff versus Smart Mark Sterling. This was a match you could see pretty much on any type of card, any show. It could be on this type of show, it could be on a fair show, it could be whatever. And you're going to get the reaction from fans the same way. This was a fun match. This was like exactly what it needed to be. And this was like the perfect palate cleanse before the intense main event. And Yeah, this was just good. It's just a fun pairing, and this is my first time seeing Mark Sterling, smart Mark Sterling, and originally I was thinking like maybe that Daniel Garcia spot before you even said that would make sense maybe against his return, but this was this was just perfect, man. This was like this was just I can't say anything more. It's just a perfect match for where it was, what it was, and a lot of fun.
That's great to hear. I still have yet to see a lick of this match because I think I was in the locker room for almost all of it. But I love Mark Sterling. I love Puff. They're two guys who are very fun, and that's exactly what this match was to be, was a fun match before we get into the, pretty intense and serious finals of the main event. So very, very fun match to have. Obviously, some shit got shifted around where this was not the original match that we had expected from Mark Sterling, nor was it the original match we expected for Puff. But I'm very happy that this ended up this way because since then I got a lot of tweets about this match, a lot of people just enjoying it, and people enjoy Puff and Mark Sterling in general. So again, as always, I think you'll be seeing more of Puff and especially more of Mark Sterling moving forward as the year progresses.
Yeah, it was I won't say comedy match because sometimes people take comedy and think it's not serious at all, whatever. But it was exactly what it needed to be. Yeah. And that's all I got to say about that, as Steve Austin once said. And then we get to the main event, 4-way final, 3/4 of the cast, so to speak, for the first ever Limitless Championship that you did a few months ago. Anthony Green, Kevin Blackwood, JT Dunn, and oh my God, why am I blanking on the fourth person?
Ace Romero.
God, Ace Romero. Boy, I'm getting old. One thing I really like, this is just the little things, is when, and I notice it always in, remember back like WrestleMania 4, the tournament, and every time Randy Savage came out, he had different colored trunks on, a different robe. The guys, I think Anthony Green had a different jacket on, different Zubaz pants. I think AR Fox, JT Dunn had different trunks on. I think it's just such a nice, like, subtle touch that every match they have a different look, I just, those are just little things that I geek out about and think, that's that attention to detail that you like. And that this was the 4-way that I thought was going to end up being, I actually in my bracket in my head had Kevin Blackwood winning the whole thing. I thought that maybe that whole story would kind of come full circle, and maybe you were going to be like, okay, this is the time to really, really kind of push this guy, maybe sooner than most people expect. But as it turned out, I think him beating JT Dunn for that first fall to eliminate him, I thought that was really good because that sets up a future match between those two guys, which I think further elevates Blackwood. So I think that's fun. Gives Dunn something to do, which is again built off the storyline here. And then obviously Anthony Green and Ace Romero in the finals, given all the clashes they've had, their history. Everything made sense. And then Anthony Green, before this happened, there was a dueling chants between Ace Romero and for Anthony Green. That was fun. The place was just into it. Nobody left. I thought that's a good sign as well. This was and Anthony Green picking up the win. This was pretty flawless. Looking at this from the outside, how do you think it turned out?
Felt really good. Felt like a very fun watch. I didn't get to watch the first couple minutes after I watched Ace Romero do his little dance. I thought that was quite comical.
That whole montage was great to open. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I missed pretty much from the super kick to Ace. I missed that first 4 or 5 minute chunk. But what I got to see from the rest of it was super fun. I think Kevin Blackwood, as we kind of talked about earlier, I think he really solidified himself in this core group of the upper echelon of Limitless Wrestling throughout this whole show, not just this match. I think the match with Christian Casanova did a lot for him as well. But throughout the whole show, I think he really proved something, and he obviously, eliminates what some people would consider the odds-on favorite, last year's winner, JT Dunn. So a big pin for him, pinning, both Dunn and Casanova in one night. And then we get to the final two, Ace Romero and Anthony Green. These guys have been truly at each other's necks since October of 2016. So it's kind of amazing that we're here, just about 3 years later, and tensions are still high between these two. Anthony Green, though, getting the win. And truly, I don't know if I've heard a reaction like the number one, the body slam to Ace Romero, and number
Yep.
two, the 3 count when Anthony Green wins this match. People just came unglued, were out of their seats, banging on the ring, and that's truly the emotions that you hope to elicit out of a pro wrestling show. And if you can do that, I think you can sleep happy at night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Anthony Green doing the promo afterwards, and it was a nice capper to the year, to year 3 or year 4, whatever, before the anniversary show. It's kind of like it was just, it fit, everything fit. It was like everything made sense. And you set some good things up for the future. I'm curious where Ace Romero goes from here, obviously. But yeah, I mean, this whole show, really just set some fun things up for the big anniversary show coming up in September. And if this turns out to be the farewell to the Portland Club, God, hell of a send off.
Yeah, and I don't think that we won't be back to the Portland Club. I definitely think that maybe even by the end of the year we'll be back. But as I've said on this podcast, we're truly looking at running more events as 2019 closes, as we head into 2020. We're looking at a couple new venues as well, but this is potentially something that could move to a monthly format or something close to that if the support is there for it. So I don't know. Let us know, Twitter at LW Main, if we should look into that. Like, I don't know if, and this isn't something that I don't know if we'd commit to, because to be honest, I'd never want to run December. I think December is much too busy for people.
Yeah.
But I've been truly considering lately, moving to a somewhat monthly format where we're running, we still have these big shows where maybe we're at the Expo, or maybe, I don't know, I'm looking at bigger buildings as well, but maybe we also have more intimate shows where we have some where, maybe we run a 400 person venue like the Portland Club and we cap it at 400, and then the first 400 there get the tickets. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of opportunities ahead. So yeah, let them know on Twitter and also Facebook as well. For any first time listeners or people that don't follow you yet, you want to give them the handles and where to follow you, and also plug YouTube too.
Yeah, absolutely. We have free content up daily on youtube.com/Limitless Wrestling. I think 440,000 subscribers, excuse me, which is absolutely insane as of today. So we have free content up there daily, whether it's from Limitless Wrestling, Let's Wrestle, promos, interviews, anything you're looking for. There's like 700 videos up there right now. So anything you want to get your hands on of Limitless. Also, independentwrestling.tv. There are 10, to my knowledge, Limitless events info up there for streaming. You can use the code Limitless when signing up, the promo code. You can get 20 days free if you use the code Limitless when signing up. There's a ton of good wrestling on there. Not only just Limitless. I mean, you've got CZW, Beyond Wrestling, AIW. They've got tons of wrestling from other different countries as well. So definitely do that. Use the code Limitless. We get a little kickback when you stick around and use that code, so it helps us out a ton. Facebook.com/Limitless Wrestling, Twitter at LW Main, Instagram at Limitless Wrestling. Tickets available on limitlesswrestling.com. As of now, I think there's only 80 floor seats available for Know Your Enemy on September 6th. So if you want to get your hands on that, definitely jump on it. Those tickets are just $20. And then our general admission tickets are the same as always, folks. $15 for general admission, bleacher seating. There's a full seating chart on our website. Head to the news section, and you can actually click a link where there's the full ticketing info. All frequently asked questions are answered in that. So if you have anything that we missed, though, definitely send us a tweet, send us a message anywhere you can. And I think next week we're going to look to do an Ask Limitless podcast again. Josh, if you're available, would love to have you on for that.
Hey now.
But I do think we're going to do an Ask Limitless next week, so definitely be looking in the coming days for a post on Twitter and on Facebook, looking for questions, and anything that you want to know, we'll talk about next week.
Yeah. And and obviously on Limitless, you can get merchandise, T-shirts, DVDs, all that stuff as well. All kinds of good stuff coming up. And if you happen to be, and again, I've not been asked to give this plug, but I'm going to anyway. If you happen to be in the Eastern Maine area on Saturday, August 17th, Let's Wrestle 9 coming up at the American Legion Post in Orono, Maine, a place that I have drunkenly danced before at a fraternity formal back when I went to the University of Maine many years ago. So yeah, I've been on that floor. So many stars have been there, including myself. But yeah, Orono, man, I was just like, if only this was around when I was in college back in the day. It's been so much fun. Yeah, I'd be the Les Russell champion by now, Randy. I'll tell you that much right now. We have, Calvin Strange versus Aiden Agro championship match, and the first four-way elimination tag match to crown the first ever Let's Wrestle tag team champions. And all types of other stars on that show. And I have a lot of Let's Wrestle questions. We'll save those for a future time, perhaps an Ask a Limitless edition of the show. But I think that's about it. We've been a little bit longer than I expected, but that's great because if it's a fun product and something that you like to talk about, the conversation just flows like this.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think this is a really fun episode. I love diving in depth on these shows. Very fun episode, and I'm excited for next week.
Sounds good. Unfortunately, John Al will be back for all you people that don't like him. For those that do like him, he'll be back next week. You can also give me a follow on Twitter if you want to. Josh Nason, JOSHNASON. And that's it for Randy Carver. For everyone at Limitless Wrestling, we'll thank you, and we'll see you soon.